I thought my son loved me. But one morning, I realized the person I raised was a monster, and my own home had become a prison. I wasn't just scared. I was trapped, manipulated, and running out of time. My name is Monica, and I'm 61. Last night, my own son beat me until I bled, over a bowl of unsalted soup. While I lay on the kitchen floor wiping my blood with an old rag, he went to his room, closed the door, and slept peacefully. As if hurting his mother was the most ordinary thing in the world. This morning I woke up with a sore body, bruised arms, and a cut on my lip that stings every time I speak. But the real pain isn't physical. It's the humiliation. It's knowing that the son I raised with love, the boy I gave my whole life to, now sees me as his maid. That in his eyes, my only purpose is to serve and stay silent. I got up at 5 a.m., same as always. Ethan was already sitting at the kitchen table in his perfect gray suit, scrolling through his phone. He didn't even look at me when I walked in. "Breakfast," he said flatly. "Hurry. I have an important meeting." It was as if the night before never happened. As if he hadn't called me worthless, useless, and said that if I weren't his mother, he would have thrown me out on the street. I made his scrambled eggs exactly how he likes them, 3 spoonfuls of shredded cheese, 2 slices of toast, black coffee, no sugar. Everything had to be perfect. Because when Ethan loses his temper, I'm the one who pays. While he was eating, the sound of a key turning echoed through the house. Savannah, his elegant, polished wife, walked in wearing a light green dress and heels. She kissed Ethan's cheek and sat down like she owned the place. "Good morning, Mrs. Davis," she said in that sweet voice she saves for when Ethan is watching. "How are you?" I wanted to tell her I woke up bruised by the man she calls her husband. I wanted to tell her I can barely move. Instead, I smiled and said, "I'm fine, thank you." "Would you like some breakfast, Savannah?" I asked. Ethan shot me a warning look. His eyes said, "One wrong word and tonight will be worse." Then he put on that fake smile he uses when an audience is present. "Look, Mom, I bought you this new makeup. Perfect for covering those little scrapes from when you tripped last night." Little scrapes. That's what he calls what he did to me. As if I somehow fell onto his fists. I took the makeup quietly. It was the expensive kind, more than $50. He probably bought it with my retirement money. He handles all my accounts now. Says I'm too old to manage money myself. The truth is, I haven't seen a single penny of my pension in 2 years. Savannah looked at him with those glowing, admiring eyes. "You're so thoughtful, honey. Always taking care of your mom." If only she knew. If only she knew that the man who manages million-dollar accounts at work comes home and pours all his anger onto me. After breakfast, Ethan adjusted his red tie, grabbed his briefcase, and whispered in my ear while Savannah fixed her makeup. "Remember what we talked about last night. If you say one word about anything, you'll regret it. No one will believe you. You're just a crazy old woman living off your son's charity." His words chilled me. They left hand in hand, the perfect couple they pretend to be. I watched them drive off in Ethan's new black car, the one that cost over $400,000. My money. Every cent of it. When the house finally fell silent, I sat in the kitchen and cried. Not from sadness, sadness left me years ago. These were tears of rage. Of helplessness. Because I know I have to do something. I just don't know how. I sat there for hours, watching the sunlight crawl across the tile floor. This house used to be my sanctuary. I bought it 30 years ago with money I earned as an executive secretary at Sullivan and Associates. 40 years of my life dedicated to that job. Getting up before dawn, organizing everyone else's world. I never imagined I would end up a prisoner in my own home. It all started 3 years ago, after Ethan divorced his first wife. He showed up one night with a suitcase and that lost little boy look he always used to melt my heart. "Mom, I just need a place to stay for a while," he said. The divorce ruined me. I have nothing left. And like the foolish mother I've always been, I opened my door and my heart. Of course, son. This is your home too. How naive I was. I didn't know I was welcoming the devil into my house. The first few months seemed normal. Ethan used to get up early, go to work, come home at night, and we'd eat dinner together. He even helped me with the grocery shopping. For a moment, I truly believed we were finally building the mother-son relationship I had always dreamed of. But little by little, the changes began. At first, it was small comments. Mom, this food is too salty. Mom, why don't you clean the bathroom better? Mom, your clothes are too wrinkled. It's embarrassing. The words stung, but I excused them. I told myself he was just stressed from the divorce. Then he started creeping into my finances. Mom, at your age, you shouldn't handle so much cash. It's dangerous. Let me help with your accounts. And like the fool I was, I gave him access to my bank. He's my son, I thought. He would never hurt me. How terribly wrong I was. Within 6 months, Ethan had taken complete control of my money. My $1,200 monthly pension went straight into his account. He handed me $20 a week for personal needs, as if I were a child. When I asked about the rest, he said, Mom, I'm investing your savings so they grow. Trust me. Then came Savannah, a woman 25 years younger, perfect smile, ambition you could see a mile away. Ethan met her at work, where she was a marketing assistant. 6 months later, they had a wedding that cost over $100,000. My money paid for every bit of it. After Savannah entered our lives, everything got worse. Ethan began treating me like hired help. Mom, make dinner for Savannah and me. Something elegant, she's used to fine things. Mom, clean the guest bathroom. Important people are coming. Mom, wash this shirt by hand. It's too expensive for the machine. And I obeyed every time, because I was afraid. Afraid of his anger. Afraid he would make good on his threat to throw me out of my own home. Even though the house was legally mine, he convinced me to add his name to the deed just in case something happens to you, Mom. The violence started a year ago. First, accidental pushes. Then pinches on my arm when I didn't move fast enough. You're driving me crazy, Mom. You're too slow. Then came hits to my shoulder. Slaps when the food wasn't right. Punches to my back if I didn't clean quickly enough. But last night was different. Last night, he crossed a line I never thought my son would cross. I had made vegetable soup, Tuesdays were always light meal days. I set the table carefully, toasted bread, hot soup, everything perfect. Ethan came home exhausted, sat down without greeting me, took one spoonful, and his face changed. What the hell is this? He roared, spitting it back into the bowl. It has no salt. It tastes like water. I apologized immediately. I'm sorry, son. I forgot. Let me fix it. But it was too late. He stood up like a wild animal, grabbed the bowl, and threw it into my face. The hot soup burned my cheek, shards of porcelain cut my lip. You're useless, he screamed, gripping my arm so hard that I knew it would bruise. 40 years working as a secretary and you can't make soup? Pathetic. He shoved me against the kitchen wall. My head hit the tile, I saw stars. He didn't stop. A slap so hard my ear rang for hours. Then another. And another. Savannah's friends are coming for lunch tomorrow, he said while I covered my face. You'd better make something special. And it better be perfect. If you embarrass me, I swear I'll throw you out. Then, just as he always did after hurting me, he calmed down. He bent down, helped me up, wiped the blood from my lip with a napkin. I'm sorry, Mom, he whispered softly. I just get so frustrated seeing you like this. I know you can do better. This is for your own good. He went to bed peacefully, like nothing had happened. I stayed up all night in the kitchen, picking up the soup and broken pieces of the bowl. Each shard felt like a piece of my dignity. My lip wouldn't stop bleeding, but the deeper pain was realizing that the boy I once loved more than life had become my tormentor. As I cleaned, I thought about how we got here. Ethan wasn't always like this. As a child, he was sweet and affectionate. His father left us when he was 8, and from then on it was him and me against the world. I worked double shifts to give him everything. Private school. Designer clothes. Piano lessons. English lessons. Anything he wanted. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I gave him everything except the lessons he needed most: respect, effort, real love. And now, 35 years later, I'm the one paying the price. At dawn, I heard his steps on the stairs. My heart raced, just like it always does when he's near. It's frightening how a person can live in constant alert inside their own home. He walked in wearing his black suit, checking his phone like he did every morning. He didn't even ask for breakfast, just sat and waited. I made his scrambled eggs, black coffee, 2 slices of toast. Silence. He ate without looking at me, answering emails as if I didn't exist. At 7:30, Savannah arrived. Today she wore a tight yellow dress and heels that echoed through the house like tiny hammers. She looked flawless as always. I wonder if she ever notices the bruises on my arms, or the way I flinch when Ethan raises his voice. "Good morning, Mrs. Davis," she said with that plastic smile. "How are you feeling today?" "I'm fine, thank you," I lied, as always. "Would you like some breakfast?" I asked. "Just coffee," she said. "Light, with artificial sweetener." As I poured Savannah's coffee, I could feel her watching me from the corner of her eye. Her gaze lingered on my swollen lip, then on the bruise peeking from the collar of my blouse. For a moment, I thought she might ask what happened, that she might show even the smallest bit of concern. But she simply looked away and went back to her phone. Ethan finished breakfast and stared directly at me. "Remember what I told you last night, Mom? Savannah is bringing 3 friends for lunch. I want something special. Seafood, pasta, Caesar salad, dessert, and get some white wine. The good kind. Not that cheap garbage you usually buy." He placed 3 $20 bills in my hand like he was being generous. $60 for a lunch for 5. He spends that much on a single tie. "And one more thing," he whispered, leaning close while Savannah wasn't looking. "Put on the makeup I bought you. Cover those marks. If any of her friends ask anything strange, if anyone comments on your appearance, you'll regret it. Understand?" My hands trembled as I nodded. He smiled, kissed my forehead like the perfect son he pretends to be, and they left together. When the door closed, I sank into a kitchen chair. $60 for seafood, pasta, wine. Fresh shrimp alone is nearly $30 a pound. Good wine is another 20. How was I supposed to perform miracles with so little? But the money wasn't even the worst part. It was the pressure, having to act normal, cheerful, like the proud mother-in-law of the perfect couple, when in reality I was an abused woman hiding inside her own home. I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. My lip was swollen and purple, with a cut at the corner of my mouth. My eyes were puffy from crying. A dark bruise spread along my neck like a shadow I couldn't escape. I opened the expensive foundation Ethan had given me, the kind elegant women like Savannah wear every day. Slowly, carefully, I covered every bruise, every mark, every reminder of the truth. As I blended the makeup, I couldn't help remembering how many times I'd done this. The lies I'd told. I tripped on the table. The closet door hit me. I fell down the stairs. One excuse after another, all to protect my son's reputation. I grabbed my shopping list and stepped out with my perfectly painted face. At the supermarket, I stretched those $60 as far as I could. Frozen shrimp instead of fresh. The cheapest wine that wasn't terrible. Discount pasta. Every penny mattered. While waiting in line, an older woman approached me. Clarice, my widowed neighbor in her 60s, always kind. Hello, Monica, she said warmly. How are you, dear? I haven't seen you in the yard lately. Oh, hi, Clarice, I replied. I'm fine. Just busy around the house. She looked at me closely, and I saw her eyes fall to my lip despite the makeup. Did you hurt your mouth? She asked gently. My heart thumped. No, it's nothing, I lied. I just bumped into the closet door. You know how clumsy I am. Clarice frowned but didn't push. Well, if you ever need anything, you know where I am. I'm always home in the afternoons. Her kindness hit me harder than any slap. I hadn't felt true compassion in so long. For one moment, I wanted to tell her everything, to ask for help, to confess the nightmare I lived in. But Ethan's voice echoed in my mind. If you ever open your mouth, you'll regret it. No one will believe you. You're just a crazy old woman living off her son's charity. Thank you, Clarice, I whispered. You're very kind. I went home and started cooking like a woman possessed. Lunch had to be ready by noon. I cleaned the house top to bottom, set the table with the good china, arranged flowers in the center. Everything had to be perfect. Perfection was the only thing that kept me safe. But Clarice's words kept echoing. If you ever need anything. Did she suspect something? Had she heard the screaming at night? At 11:30, my phone rang, an unknown number. Mrs. Davis? A man's voice asked. Yes, speaking. I'm calling from your son Ethan's company. I'm the accountant. We need to speak with you urgently about some discrepancies in the accounts. Could you come to the office this afternoon? My heart stopped. Discrepancies? I don't understand. I'd rather not discuss it over the phone, Mrs. Davis. Could you come at 3 p.m.? It's important. My hand shook as I hung up. What had Ethan done? Why were they calling me? The dread in my stomach tightened, but I had no time to think because Savannah and her friends were already arriving. The doorbell rang at exactly noon. I took a deep breath, touched up my makeup, and opened the door. Savannah stood there with her 3 friends, dressed like they were stepping onto a runway. Designer handbags, expensive dresses, shoes worth more than my pension. Hello, Mrs. Davis, Savannah said sweetly. Let me introduce my friends. This is Beatrice from HR. This is Brenda from marketing. And this is Evelyn, she's from legal. My heart nearly dropped when I heard the last name. Evelyn. It couldn't be a coincidence. I looked closely, and yes. It was her. Evelyn Brooks, my younger sister, stood there as if pulled out of another lifetime. I hadn't seen her in more than 2 years. The surprise in her eyes matched mine, but she recovered instantly. Evelyn was always sharper than me, quicker to understand the room. And she understood immediately that something was wrong the moment she saw my overly powdered face and the way my hands kept shaking. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Davis, she said politely, pretending not to know me. Your daughter-in-law has told us so much about you. I guided them toward the dining room, where I had laid out my best tablecloth, my mother's china, and the crystal glasses I only used on holidays. Everything looked perfect, the way Ethan demanded. I served the food with a steady smile I didn't feel. The shrimp pasta came out well despite the pitiful budget. The Caesar salad looked crisp. The fresh bread filled the room with warmth. Even the tiramisu, simple as it was, looked presentable. The women chatted easily about work and weekend plans while I moved back and forth from the kitchen, pouring wine and clearing plates like some well-trained hostess. But Evelyn never stopped watching me. I knew that look. She used to give me that same sharp, searching stare when we were girls and I tried to hide that I'd been crying. She could always read me. This is delicious, Beatrice said. Mrs. Davis, did you make all of this yourself? Yes, I answered with a practiced smile. Cooking is one of the few things that still brings me joy. How lucky Ethan is, Brenda added. A woman so dedicated to her home, that's rare these days. Savannah beamed. It's true. Mrs. Davis takes care of everything. It's like having a housekeeper, but better, because she does it with love. Her words hit me hard. A housekeeper. That's what I had become in their eyes, not a mother, not a human being with her own life, but a free servant. Evelyn cleared her throat, still studying me. And what did you do before retirement, Mrs. Davis? Have you always been a homemaker? For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of pride. I worked 40 years as an executive secretary at Sullivan and Associates, I replied. I retired 3 years ago. Evelyn's eyes lit up. She'd interned at that firm during law school. Really? That's an exceptional place. You must have worked with so many important people. I did, I said softly. Judges, prosecutors, senior attorneys. Mr. Sullivan always said I was indispensable. Savannah shifted in her chair, clearly uncomfortable. She didn't like me being anything more than what she had labeled me. Well, now Mrs. Davis is enjoying a peaceful retirement, she cut in quickly. Ethan handles her finances. He takes care of everything. Evelyn's eyes snapped to mine. She knew exactly how wrong that sounded. A woman who managed high-profile cases for 4 decades didn't suddenly need her son to control her life. The lunch went on, though I could feel tension growing between every beat of conversation. When I went to the kitchen for the dessert, Evelyn followed. Can I help you? She asked, but what she really wanted was a moment alone. No, everything's fine, I said without meeting her eyes. Monica, she whispered, using my name at last, are you all right? You seem off. For a second, all the walls I'd built around myself started to crumble. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to fall into her arms like the sister I once had. But then I heard the front door open, Ethan's keys. He was home early. I'm fine, I whispered quickly. Just tired. Ethan entered with the polished charm he reserved for outsiders. He kissed Savannah, greeted her friends, then glanced at me with cold approval. The lunch had gone exactly the way he wanted. She's the best mother in the world, he said as he squeezed my shoulder, too hard, a silent warning hidden behind the smile. After dessert, the women left one by one. Evelyn was last. She took my hand, squeezing it gently. It was lovely meeting you, Mrs. Davis, she said loudly for Ethan to hear. Then, in a whisper only I could catch, I'll see you soon. As soon as the door closed behind them, Ethan's face changed. The pleasant mask fell away. You did well, he said flatly. For once, you didn't embarrass me. He went to his room, but before leaving he turned back. By the way, a technician's coming tomorrow to check your computer. He says you've been visiting strange websites. My blood ran cold. He must have seen the pages I'd opened, shelters, helplines, domestic abuse resources. He knew I was searching for a way out. Just then my phone rang. Mrs. Davis, the accountant said, can you come in at 3? It's urgent. I checked the clock. 2:15, Ethan was in his room, probably lying down. It was my only chance. Yes, I whispered. I'll come. I grabbed my keys, my purse, and walked out quietly. I didn't know what waited for me, but something inside me, something I thought had died, whispered that this moment mattered. As I walked toward the bus stop, I remembered Evelyn's words, we'll see each other soon. For the first time in a very long time. I felt hope. The office building was tall and sharp, all glass and steel, the kind of place meant to intimidate. I had never been there before. Ethan had always kept that part of his life hidden from me. I rode the elevator to the 18th floor. My heart pounded so loudly it felt like the entire lobby could hear it. A receptionist led me to a quiet office. Inside, a man in his 50s stood to greet me. Mrs. Davis, he said gently. I'm Adrian Castillo, the company's general accountant. Thank you for coming so quickly. I sat across from his desk, trying to keep my hands from shaking. His eyes held a seriousness that made my heart pound even harder. Ma'am, he began gently, opening a thick folder, I need to ask you some questions about your bank account. Specifically, about certain transactions we've detected over the past few months. I don't understand, I whispered. What does my account have to do with the company? Adrian looked at me with a mix of concern and pity. Mrs. Davis, we've discovered that your son, Ethan, has been using company funds to make transfers into your personal bank account. Transfers that are then withdrawn almost immediately. It felt like someone had struck me in the stomach. That can't be true. Ethan is a model employee. He would never do something like that. I'm afraid he has, Adrian said quietly, sliding the documents toward me. In the last 6 months, he's diverted more than $50,000 of company money. The funds appear in his personal account, and then they're transferred into the joint account he controls with you. $50,000. My son wasn't just hurting me physically. He had turned me into the face of his crimes, his shield, his hiding place. But I didn't know, I said desperately. He handles everything. I don't approve any transfers. We believe you, Adrian said with kindness. That's why we called you before taking legal action. We need you to file a formal complaint for misuse of your bank account. It's the only way to legally clear your name. My stomach churned. I wasn't only a victim of violence, I was now a victim of fraud. And the person behind all of it was my own child. What will happen to Ethan? I asked, already fearing the answer. If you file the complaint, he will be arrested for embezzlement and fraudulent use of financial accounts. Those crimes carry sentences of 5 to 10 years. I left the office in a fog, wandering downtown without direction for hours. My son, my only son, was a thief, a criminal. And I had been a tool in his hands without ever realizing it. When I finally walked through the front door at 6 p.m., Ethan was on the couch watching television like it was any ordinary day. Where have you been? He snapped before I could even close the door. I came home and the house was a mess. You weren't here. For the first time in years, I looked straight into his eyes and didn't look away. I was at your office. His expression shattered for a split second, fear, real fear, flickered across his face. What did you say? I said I was at your office. I spoke with the accountant. I know what you've been doing. He stood up slowly, like a predator deciding how to corner its prey. I don't know what you're talking about, Mom. You're confused. $50,000, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. $50,000 you stole from your company using my bank account. He came closer, but I didn't step back. Something inside me had shifted forever. Listen to me, you stupid old woman, he hissed. You have no idea what you're saying. That money is mine. You owe me, for everything I've given you. The food you eat. The roof over your head. The clothes on your back. With my own money, I replied. My pension. My savings. The money I earned for 40 years. He grabbed my arm tightly, but this time I didn't freeze. Let go of me. I didn't whisper it. I screamed it, from a place inside me that hadn't had a voice in years. He was so shocked by my defiance that he actually released me. You're crazy, he said, but his voice shook. No one will believe you. You're a senile old woman who doesn't know what she's saying. The accountant believed me, I said calmly. And the documents don't lie. He stared at me, calculating. Then his face twisted. If you say one word. If you file anything. I swear I will destroy you. This house is in my name. I'll throw you on the street tomorrow. Without me, you'll die alone. But for the first time, his words didn't terrify me. I'm not afraid of you anymore, I said. And it was true. A clarity washed over me, cold, powerful, unshakable. For the first time in 3 years. I'm not afraid. He raised his hand to strike me. But the doorbell rang. Monica. Clarice's voice. Monica, are you all right? I heard yelling. Ethan slowly lowered his hand. He couldn't risk a witness. His reputation was his religion. Go see what she wants, he said, teeth clenched. And don't say anything stupid. My legs trembled as I opened the door. Clarice stood there, worry etched across her face, holding a casserole dish. Hi, dear, she said gently. I brought you some stew, but... I heard shouting. Is everything okay? Standing just behind her was another woman, casual clothes, hair tied back. Evelyn. My sister. Hello, she said, pretending not to know me. I'm new to the neighborhood and was just visiting Mrs. Davis. I hope we're not interrupting. Ethan appeared behind me, his polite mask back in place. No problem at all, ladies. My mother got upset because she burned dinner. You know how older women get. Clarice gave him a look I couldn't quite read. Well, she said softly, handing me the dish, if you need anything at all, I'm right next door. Evelyn met my eyes. Yes, Mrs. Davis, she added. Day or night. When they left, Ethan slammed the door so hard the frame shook. Nosy old women, he muttered. But this isn't over. Tomorrow, we're going to the bank. You're going to sign whatever I tell you. You're going to take back whatever complaint you probably already made. You're going to say it was all a misunderstanding. No. He froze. What do you mean, no? I'm not signing anything, I said quietly. I'm not retracting anything. And I'm not helping you steal another cent. Ethan looked at me with a rage I had never seen in him before, as if every mask he'd ever worn had suddenly fallen away. Fine, he said with a calm so cold it terrified me more than any shouting ever could. If that's how you want this, we'll play your way. But hear me clearly, when I'm finished with you, you'll wish you were never born. I didn't sleep a single minute. Ethan stayed locked in his room, but I heard him on the phone for hours. I had no idea what he was planning, only that it was something dark, something dangerous. Around 3 a.m., I heard a noise in the yard. When I looked out the window, I saw someone moving through the bushes. It was Clarice. She was setting something up near my window. The next morning, I understood why. She had hidden a small security camera pointed straight at my house. My neighbor had seen enough to know something was wrong, and she was quietly documenting everything. The day broke gray and heavy, as if the sky itself knew what was coming. Ethan woke earlier than usual, moving around the house in a low, secretive voice. When I came downstairs, he was already dressed in his best black suit, looking every bit the polished executive the world thought he was, not the monster I lived with. Good morning, Mom, he said in a syrupy voice that made my skin crawl. Hope you slept well. That fake sweetness chilled me. I knew him too well. When Ethan was kind, it meant trouble. Yes, I lied, setting his coffee down. Good, he said with a smile that never touched his eyes. Because today is going to be very special. I thought about our conversation all night. He sat there eating calmly, as if we were a normal family. But everything about him felt wrong. I've decided you're right, he said. Maybe I've been too hard on you. You're my mother. You deserve respect. His sudden humility was so unnatural it felt like ice water down my back. It was a trap, I knew it instantly. That's why, he went on, spreading butter on his toast, you and I are going to the bank today. You're going to clear up this whole misunderstanding. You'll tell them you authorized every transfer. That you knew exactly what I was doing with your money. There it was, the truth behind the kindness. I'm not doing that, Ethan, I managed, my voice shaking. His smile disappeared. Oh, yes you are. Because if you don't, some very unpleasant things will happen. Are you threatening me? I asked. No, he said, finishing his coffee. I'm explaining reality. Look around you. This house, this food, that bed you sleep in, everything you have is because I allow it. And if I stop allowing it? He didn't need to finish. I understood. And, he added, pulling out his phone, I've been thinking about calling a few doctors. Specialists in older adults with mental decline. It's heartbreaking when mothers start imagining things, accusing their sons of terrible acts. My blood turned cold. He wasn't just threatening homelessness, he was threatening to have me declared incompetent. He wanted to erase my truth entirely. There are witnesses, he continued. Savannah knows how confused you've been. Even the friends who visited noticed something off. It was all lies. But he was so smooth, so practiced, that for a moment I wondered if I was the one losing touch with reality. That was his power, making me doubt myself. So, he said, standing, we're leaving at 10. Wear your best dress. Fix your hair. And smile while you sign whatever they give you. Understand? I didn't answer. I just started clearing the dishes, trying to think anything to buy time. I asked you a question, he snapped, the sweetness gone. Understood, I muttered, hating myself for the fear in my voice. Ethan headed to his office but turned back long enough to warn me. Don't leave this house. Don't call anyone. I'll be back at 9:30. The door closed, and I collapsed into a chair. Not from sadness, but from pure, burning anger. At him. At myself. At all the years that led to this moment. A few minutes later, I heard a soft knock at the back door. It was Clarice, urgency written all over her face. Monica, open up, she whispered. Now. I let her in, and she looked around before speaking. I heard everything, she said. The camera caught all of it. My heart pounded. Everything, she repeated. The threats. The manipulation. Him forcing you to lie about the money. For the first time in days, hope stirred. What can we do? I asked. She gave a small, confident smile. I have a friend in the DA's office. Brenda. She handles domestic abuse and financial fraud. But we need to go. Right now. I can't, I whispered. Ethan said. Monica, Clarice said, gripping my hands, her voice low and firm, listen to me. If you go to that bank today and sign those papers, Clarice said, her voice low but firm, your son walks away free. He'll keep stealing from you. He'll keep abusing you. And worse, you'll become part of the crimes. You'll be seen as his willing accomplice. She was right. If I signed those papers, I wouldn't just lose my dignity, I would become a criminal in the eyes of the law. But if I don't go, I whispered, my voice trembling. He'll follow through with his threats. He'll throw me out. He'll call me crazy. He won't be able to do any of that, Clarice cut in. Because we're going to move before he does. Brenda said the recordings are more than enough. With the evidence I have, they can arrest him today. I looked at the clock. 8:30, Ethan would be back in less than an hour. Are you sure your friend can help me? I asked. Absolutely sure, she said. But we have to leave. Now. This is our only chance. That was the moment everything shifted. I grabbed my purse, my documents, and walked out the door with Clarice. As we crossed the yard, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years, courage. For the first time I was choosing myself. The district attorney's office was a maze of narrow hallways and small rooms. Brenda, a sharp-eyed, steady woman in her 40s, reviewed the recordings with growing concern. Mrs. Davis, she said finally, what your son has done includes domestic abuse, financial fraud, blackmail, and attempted obstruction of justice. What does that mean? I asked quietly. It means, Brenda replied, we can arrest him today. If you're willing to file a formal complaint. I checked the time. 9:15, in 15 minutes, Ethan would return home to pick me up. And when he didn't find me, I didn't want to imagine his rage. Yes, I said. My voice didn't shake this time. I'll file the complaint. Good, Brenda said. While you fill out the paperwork, I'll coordinate with the police. Where is he now? He'll be arriving at my house at 9:30. Perfect. Easier to arrest him there. While I filled out the forms, Clarice held my hand. Are you sure, Monica? After this, there's no turning back. I've never been more sure. At 10:30, Brenda's phone rang. She answered, listened, nodded. They've arrested him, she said. He was screaming, breaking things, searching the house for you. He's in custody. And the charges are serious, he likely won't get bail. A weight I'd carried for years finally lifted. For the first time in so long, I knew I would sleep without fear. When we returned home that afternoon, the house was in ruins. Torn cushions, shattered dishes, broken picture frames, Ethan had destroyed everything in his path. My God, Clarice whispered. How could he do all this so fast? I knew. I'd seen his rage before. But this was the first time it was aimed at objects instead of me. Brenda walked through the destruction, taking photos. This supports the case, property destruction during a violent episode. The judge will see exactly who he is. As we cleaned up the shattered glass, my phone kept ringing. Unknown number. Don't answer, Brenda warned. It's him. Ignore it. She was right. The voicemail told me everything. Ethan's voice was no longer threatening. He sounded small. Broken. Desperate. Mom, please get me out of here. It was a misunderstanding. I never meant to hurt you. Please. I'm your son. 5 messages. Each one more pathetic than the last. In the final one, he was crying. Classic abuser behavior, Brenda explained. Violence first. Guilt second. Manipulation always. I knew she was right. But hearing my son cry still tore something inside me. He had been my whole world for 35 years. It was hard to separate the boy I'd raised from the man he'd become. Are you all right? Clarice asked gently. It's complicated, I said. I know I did the right thing, but he's still my son. That night, Clarice insisted I stay with her. Your house isn't safe, she said. Ethan has friends. Savannah, too. Someone might try something. She wasn't wrong. His voicemails mentioned Savannah handling things. Whatever that meant, I didn't want to find out. Clarice's home was small but warm. She showed me to a guest room. It was my daughter's. But tonight, it's yours. For the first time in 3 years, I slept without fear. No footsteps in the hallway. No shouting. No waiting for pain. Peace felt unfamiliar. Almost frightening. Early the next morning, Brenda called. Ethan's bail hearing is at 2. I need you there. Your testimony matters. The courtroom was small. Ethan sat in an orange jumpsuit. When he saw me, his face hardened into pure, silent rage. Savannah sat behind him, elegant but exhausted. The judge listened as I told my story, years of beatings, threats, financial theft, humiliation. My voice broke, but I kept going. When I mentioned the $50,000 he stole, Ethan tensed. And what did your son tell you yesterday morning? The judge asked. He threatened to have me declared mentally incompetent if I didn't lie for him, I answered. He said he'd leave me with nothing. The judge listened to the recordings. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady and firm. Mr. Davis, the evidence shows a pattern of abuse, fraud, and intimidation. Bail is denied. You will remain in custody until trial. Ethan erupted. This is an injustice. That crazy old woman is lying. I'll make you pay, Mom. You'll regret this. His threats echoed across the room, proving everything I had just said. After the hearing, Savannah approached me, trembling. Mrs. Davis. I need to apologize. Brenda and Clarice stiffened, but I nodded. I knew something was wrong, Savannah said, her voice shaking. I saw the bruises. I heard the screams. But I said nothing. I was scared. He threatened me too. I let you suffer because I was protecting my comfortable life. Tears filled her eyes. And yesterday, I found documents in his office. He wasn't just stealing from the company. He was stealing from me. The whole marriage was a lie. What are you going to do now? I asked her. I'm filing for divorce immediately, she said, her voice steady for the first time in years. And I'm going to testify against him at trial. I already spoke with a lawyer. I'm working with the DA's office now. He's finally going to pay for what he did to us. When we walked out of the courthouse, I felt something I hadn't felt in so long, real hope. Not only had I broken free from my own son, but I finally had people beside me who believed in justice. That afternoon, as we headed back to Clarice's house, Brenda shared more news. The company Ethan worked for wants a settlement, she said. They won't press additional charges against you if you return the stolen funds. And since they recognize you were a victim of fraud, they're offering you $20,000. $20,000. More money than I'd seen in the last 3 years. What about my house? I asked quietly. Ethan told me it was in his name, too. We checked, Brenda replied, smiling. Your son lied. The deed is still solely yours. He forged documents, but legally, the house belongs to you. For the first time in ages, I began to picture a future I could almost touch, a future where I wasn't afraid, where I could make my own choices, where my life was mine again. But I also knew Ethan wouldn't surrender easily. His threats in the courtroom still echoed in my mind. This battle was far from over. 3 weeks after his arrest, everything had changed, but not in the way I hoped. Even though I was safe in Clarice's home, my mind was still chained to him. I lived in constant fear. Every sound startled me. Every car outside sent me running to the window. Unknown calls made my heart race. Brenda told me it was normal. After years of abuse, the fear doesn't vanish overnight, she said. It's PTSD. Your body has lived in survival mode for too long. Healing will take time. But the trauma wasn't the only thing haunting me. Ethan had found ways to send messages from jail, messages that froze my blood. The first arrived through a different lawyer. A handwritten letter. His handwriting. Dear Mom, it began. Enjoy your little victory. I hope you feel brave for betraying me. But this isn't over. I know things about you, things you hid for 40 years at that law firm. Secrets that could ruin your life. My heart dropped. What secrets? In 40 years as a secretary at Sullivan & Associates, I'd handled confidential files, yes, but nothing criminal. Then he wrote. Remember the Williams versus State case? 15 years ago? I found the documents you altered to help Mr. Sullivan win that multimillion-dollar verdict. Evidence tampering, Mom. You could go to prison. My hands shook violently. I barely remembered the case. The firm had represented a pharmaceutical company accused of hiding deadly side effects. Mr. Sullivan told me to reorganize documents and remove memos that could hurt the client. I thought it was routine, part of my job. I never understood the legal weight of what I was doing. But Ethan wasn't wrong, technically, I had altered case evidence. I have copies, he wrote. If you don't drop the charges and publicly apologize, the DA gets everything. Imagine the headlines, 61-year-old secretary arrested for covering up drug deaths. The rest of the letter described exactly how he'd ruin me. His media contacts. The journalists who would pay for scandal. My name splashed across every newspaper. When Clarice found me sobbing over the letter, she called Brenda immediately. This is blackmail, Brenda said after reading it. But we need to know if there's any truth in what he's threatening. Tell me everything about the Williams case. I told her everything, Mr. Sullivan's instructions, the files, the memos. Did you know it was illegal? She asked. No, I whispered. I was following orders. He said it was standard procedure. Brenda exhaled heavily. Legally, not knowing doesn't excuse it. If you altered evidence, even without intent, it's still a crime. My world collapsed all over again. Just when I thought I had escaped Ethan's control, he found a new way to trap me. What do I do? I begged. If I drop the charges, he'll get out, and he'll kill me. If I don't, I might go to jail for something I didn't even understand. First, breathe, Brenda said. Second, we're going to find out exactly what your son has. And third, we'll look for every possible way to protect you. The following days were a legal nightmare. Brenda and a team of attorneys dug through the entire Williams file. Meanwhile, I lived with a constant fear of a knock on the door, imagining handcuffs, headlines, disgrace. But Clarice saved me. She opened her home, but more than that, she opened her heart. Every night, she sat beside me while I cried, brought me chamomile tea, and whispered the same words. No matter what comes, we face it together. You're not that terrified woman anymore, the one who lived under her own son's tyranny. But that was exactly how I felt. Ethan had dragged me right back into the fear and helplessness that had defined my life for 3 long years. A week later, the second letter arrived, colder, crueler than the first. I see you haven't learned, Mom. You still think you can defy me? Fine. Now everyone will know who you really are. Inside was an envelope filled with photographs, images of internal memos from Sullivan and Associates with my handwriting, my notes in the margins, altered dates, missing pages. These photos hit the newspapers tomorrow, he wrote. Unless you visit me in jail before Friday. Alone. No lawyers. And you'll bring a signed letter saying you're dropping the charges because all of this was a misunderstanding caused by your mental deterioration. Mental deterioration. The accusation froze my blood. And if you don't come, he continued, the photos go public, and so do the recordings. Recordings? Did you think I didn't know you had cameras in the house, Mom? You really think I'm stupid? I have recordings of you taking cash from clients. Money you never reported. Tax evasion. That's another 15 years in prison. This wasn't blackmail anymore. This was psychological warfare. Ethan had planned for this, collected evidence, prepared every angle, anticipated the moment I'd finally push back. When Brenda finished reading the letter, her entire expression hardened. Monica, you need to tell me absolutely everything, anything irregular you ever did at the firm, any money you received off the books. So I told her. About the cash Christmas bonuses Mr. Sullivan gave me, gifts I never declared. About the clients who slipped tips into my hand for a job well done, money I never reported because I didn't even know I had to. How much in 40 years, she asked. Maybe, $1,000, I said, ashamed. Brenda did the math. With penalties and interest, it could mean a tax debt of around $40,000. And the bigger issue, it was still tax evasion. My son had built the perfect trap. If I pressed charges, he'd destroy me. If I didn't, he'd walk free to torment me again. There's a third way, Brenda finally said. A way neither of you expect. We go public ourselves. We confess everything before he can use it. And we use your confession to show that he is a manipulator who abuses you psychologically, even from jail. It was a terrifying strategy. Admitting mistakes publicly. Facing the consequences. Exposing myself to humiliation. But it would take away Ethan's only weapon, my secrets. If we do this, Brenda said gently, he loses all power. He can't blackmail you anymore. I looked across the street at my house, empty, broken, still mine. It held my past, my shame, my regrets, but also the chance to take my life back. Let's do it, I finally whispered. I'm done living in fear. I'm done letting my son control me. Brenda smiled. Tomorrow, we give Ethan the shock of his life. The day we decided to fight back came sooner than I expected. Brenda arranged a press conference for 2 p.m. where I would admit everything, before Ethan could use any of it against me. It was dangerous, but it was the only path toward taking back control. That morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. For the first time since Ethan's arrest, the fear wasn't stronger than me. I had made a choice, and strangely, that choice gave me peace. Clarice helped me get dressed. I wore my serious gray dress, the one I used for firm meetings. A bit of makeup, just enough to soften my face without pretending to be anything other than the woman who had endured too much. "Are you absolutely sure, Monica?" she asked for the 5th time. "Once you speak publicly, there's no undoing it." "I've never been more certain," I said. Even I was surprised at the strength in my voice. I spent 3 years imprisoned by consequences I was afraid to face. I won't let my past chain me any longer. At noon, Brenda called with unexpected news. "Monica," she said, "something extraordinary just happened. Raphael Miller, Ethan's employer, wants to meet you before the conference." Raphael was the man who uncovered Ethan's embezzlement, the man who'd gone pale when he learned the truth. I couldn't imagine why he wanted to meet. We gathered in Brenda's office. Raphael, dignified and silver-haired in his 50s, stood the moment I entered. "Mrs. Davis," he said, voice warm but heavy, "first, I want to apologize. If I had supervised Ethan better, if I had seen the red flags, perhaps you wouldn't have suffered this much." His apology stunned me. "You couldn't have known what was happening in my home," I said quietly. "Perhaps not," he replied. "But I should have known something was wrong in our company's books. Your son's thefts didn't begin 6 months ago. They began 2 years ago." My heart stopped. 2 years? "Yes," Raphael confirmed. "Small amounts at first, so small we attributed them to accounting errors. But after your complaint, we discovered Ethan had been stealing systematically for 2 full years." Brenda leaned forward. "How much are we talking about?" $130,000, Raphael said, "all funneled into accounts he controlled, including yours." Nausea hit me. Not only had I endured abuse, but I had been an unwitting instrument in a massive theft for 2 years. "But there's more," Raphael continued. "When we dug deeper, we found forged reports, manipulated contracts, and even company secrets sold to competitors." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, dread tightening in my chest. Raphael smiled for the first time. "Because we want to offer you a job, Mrs. Davis. With your 40 years at Sullivan & Associates, your experience handling complex cases, and impeccable references, we need someone to help us rebuild what your son destroyed." I couldn't believe it. Instead of facing arrest and humiliation, I was being offered a fresh start. "The salary," Raphael added, "is $4,000 a month, with health benefits, plus $50,000 as compensation for what we inadvertently allowed to happen to you. $4,000 a month, 3 times my pension. $50,000 in recognition." For the first time in years, my future didn't feel hopeless. "One condition," Raphael said. "We need your testimony at your son's trial. Your voice will ensure he pays for every crime, not just those against you." "Of course," I replied firmly. "Whatever it takes." At 2 p.m., the press room was packed, journalists, cameras, microphones. Brenda had explained that a domestic violence victim would make a public statement about blackmail from jail. Sitting in front of the cameras, I felt a new kind of fear. Not of Ethan, not of beatings or threats. Fear of freedom. Fear of responsibility. Fear of owning my life. "My name is Monica Davis," I began, looking directly into the cameras. "I'm 61, and for the last 3 years, I was a victim of domestic violence by my son, Ethan Davis." I told the full story, the beatings, the financial control, the threats, the theft. But I didn't hide the part Ethan wanted secret. "In my 40 years as a secretary at Sullivan & Associates," I said, voice growing firmer, "I made mistakes. Mistakes I didn't know were illegal, but now I recognize as such. Altered documents, unreported cash, all of it. Ethan found these errors and has been using them to blackmail me from jail, threatening public exposure if I didn't drop charges against him. Today, I take that weapon away from him. I will face my mistakes rather than live under his control." The room was silent. Every camera recorded, every journalist scribbled furiously. "I want all women suffering abuse, by sons, husbands, partners, to hear this. Emotional blackmail, financial control, threats, they are abuse. Don't let fear of public judgment keep you a prisoner. Freedom is worth more than reputation." After the conference, Brenda told me the DA's office would not press charges against me for past mistakes. My voluntary confession, paired with evidence that I was blackmailed, made me a key witness, not a defendant. That night, for the first time in months, I slept in my own bed. Clarice stayed the first few nights, until I felt safe. Lying there, I felt something I hadn't in 3 years, total control over my own life. Ethan remained in jail, facing multiple charges that would likely keep him there for years. His blackmail had no power, because there were no secrets left to exploit. My phone rang. Ethan's number, but I wasn't afraid. "Mom," he said, voice defeated, "I saw your press conference." "And what do you think?" I asked calmly. "You destroyed everything," he said, not with anger, but with sorrow. "You destroyed my last chance to get out." "No, Ethan," I replied. "You destroyed that chance when you turned your mother into a victim." A long silence followed. "Will you ever forgive me?" he finally asked. "Someday," I said honestly. "When you pay for what you did. When you truly change. When you understand the damage you caused. Someday, maybe. But I will never forget." I hung up, turned off the phone, and let the night embrace me. Tomorrow, a new job. A new life. Tonight, peace. No fear. No threats. No blackmail. For the first time in 3 years, I was completely free. I had faced my past mistakes publicly. I had lost my son forever. But I had regained myself. Ethan had learned that victims can become strong, that secrets lose power in the light, and that justice, though slow, eventually arrives. It is never too late to reclaim your life, no matter how many years you have spent in the shadows. This is my story of liberation. A story I hope inspires other women to break their chains, no matter who put them there.